Hello BookTube, my name's Erica. In this video I thought I'd just share with you some of the books that I have acquired over the past few months during lockdown. I've acquired quite a few hardcovers and also some Kindle reads as well. I've got a pretty small apartment, so um, there isn't much space, so a lot of the books that I have bought are on my Kindle, but I thought I'd share some of the books that I did purchase as well. Um, for the past year and a half or so, I've been on a huge Plantagenet kick. I'm just fascinated by everything in relation to England's kings and queens and the relationships that they've had with the barons and the lords and just the intrigue and the power struggle between them. Um, I haven't really necessarily focused on the War of the Roses that much. However, I recently read Ian Mortimer's The Fears of Henry IV, and I'm hugely fascinated by Henry Bolingbroke's deposition of King Richard II and just the context um, in which those events occurred and how it did eventually lead to the War of the Roses. But that is a Kindle edition. So I try to be organized and focused with my TBR list, but that never happens. I drafted one for September and October, but for some reason my legs just carried me to the library yesterday, so I've picked up a few books there that um, aren't even included in my TBR, and I'm actually really enjoying them. So my plans might be waylaid. But what I did pick up, I'll start with, and this isn't even in relation to the Plantagenets, but I am quite interested in the Civil War, um, and Lincoln in particular. So I picked up The Rise to Greatness by David von Drehle, if that's how you pronounce it. Um, and I'm only about 30 pages in, but it's gripped my attention. I like the way it's written, and each chapter is broken into um, the months of the year 1862. You know, Lincoln's second year. That's quite terrible that I don't know. That's why I'm reading it. His second year and just how perilous it was, and just how he went into the presidency and he wasn't incredibly popular. He was viewed by many as inept at the role. So I'm quite looking forward to reading this just to see and to understand the different perspectives of his peers. The second book that I picked up, and I have been looking at this for a while, however, when I buy books, I try to buy them if they're under £3 here in the UK. That's either Kindle or, used. I try to purchase used as much as possible. So if I can't find those, then, I just at the moment won't pick them up. I'm buying too many books at the moment for it to be sustainable. So I found this at the library, which I was quite happy about, and it's about Matilda, the Wife of the Conqueror, First Queen of England, by Tracy Borman. And I'm interested in this. Just the description pulled me in. So Tracy Borman describes her as not only pious and loving, um, however, she was also ambitious, intelligent, and she alludes to treachery, revolt, and the fracturing of a dynasty. So I'm quite looking forward to reading that. If So I mainly read nonfiction, history nonfiction. Um, However, if the book reads like a novel, I think that's all the better, and a lot of these books do. So I'll share some more examples with you. But the third one that I picked up from the library is The Shadow King, and this is by Lauren Johnson. I have seen this in Waterstones, and I was quite, I really did want to pick it up, but again, I can't find one at the moment that, I'd be able to purchase within my budget. So when I found this at the library, I was quite happy. So I'm really interested in reading this because it's about Henry V of England. So he is viewed by history and historians as a very simple minded king, and one of the reasons why the War of the Roses took place in the in the first place. So I think from the way she describes it, it's going to discuss more of his character, his failure to act decisively, but I'm just and just how he's a lover of peace. So I'm quite interested just to really get into this, just to understand the man, and see if there's, you know, any more to him than the superficial claims that he was just inept and unfit for rule. So I'm looking forward to that. Those were my library acquisitions, I should say. I guess what I'll do is move on to some gifts. It was my birthday recently, and my husband purchased a few books for me, which was really nice. He knows better than to get me anything else other than books. The first one is The King of the North Wind by Claudia Gold, and I really enjoyed this. Again, this is one of those books that reads like a novel. It's about Henry Fitzempress, Henry II of England. And so if you're not familiar, many of you might be, but for those of you who aren't, Henry II was the son of Matilda, whose father was Henry I of England, and he unfortunately lost his son in an accident, in a shipwreck, which meant that he didn't have any heirs. So he appointed Matilda as his heir. However, this infuriated a lot of the lords because at this point in England's history, there wasn't really a precedent for women claiming the throne. However, he made them swear fealty at least twice, and that they would give their word that they would abide by his wishes and make her the queen once he died. However, that didn't happen for various reasons. So what happened next was what's called the anarchy. So Stephen of Blois takes the throne, and Matilda and Stephen for about 20 years are engaged in a bloody civil war, and this is about her son, Henry II, Henry Fitzempress, the first Plantagenet king. His father was Geoffrey Plantagenet, about his struggle to claim the throne, but also it takes us through his life, his relationship with his wife, Eleanor of Aquitaine, who is hugely interesting in her own right, and also his sons. And perhaps I was reading some of the reviews about this online, and some of them I think were a bit unfair because they say, you know, it's nothing that it's what she says in here isn't really different from what you find in other resources about Henry II. However, I really liked it because she calls it the life of Henry II in 5 acts, and she divides it up into, you know, his struggle for power, and, you know, ultimately his relationships with his sons, his relationship with the Thomas Becket, the first archbishop, not the first, the Archbishop of Canterbury. Essentially, they were great pals until, you know, he made the disastrous mistake of appointing him as the Archbishop of Canterbury, and that's when they had this huge power struggle. So that was one of his first mistakes. But the ultimate failure in Henry II in keeping together his empire across, you know, the lands of France, Aquitaine, and England, was his inability to bring his sons together, and his ultimate desire to restrict power to himself. It's quite sad and tragic how his family all turned against him. His wife actively encouraged his sons to rebel against him, and his son, King Richard, the Lionheart, would ultimately betray him twice. So I almost ended up feeling sorry for him by the end of this, and it just read like a novel, and I thoroughly enjoyed this book. So the second book that my husband purchased for me as a gift, which I'm trying to save for October because I do like to get into the mood for Halloween, is this, Dracula, Prince of Many Faces. I'm really excited to read this. Dracula is one of my favorite novels, and I'm just I've got a basic knowledge of Vlad Dracul. However, I don't have the in-depth knowledge, and I'm really interested in in reading about his father and just the contextual, his upbringing, just so I can understand a bit more about, you know, the real Vlad the Impaler. So I'll be reading that for October. So some of what else I purchased, I did say that I try to keep my budget to about £3 per book. However, I went to Waterstones recently and I saw this and I had to have it just because the illustrations on the cover are just so amazing. So this is The Death of King Arthur, a retelling by Peter Ackroyd, and another reason why I was happy to pick this up is because I did order a used version online. However, it didn't arrive in the mail, so I was a bit disappointed about that, but I think it was you know, a stroke of luck that that happened, because I probably wouldn't have picked this up otherwise. But have a look at those. Just really beautiful imagery from the book itself. Gorgeous. So I've already started reading it, but I don't know about you guys. I tend to read books simultaneously. I'm not the kind of person that can just keep my attention focused on one book at a time. I have to read them together. Otherwise, I don't know, I'm just disorganized, and I do find myself losing interest in one thing at once. So I feel like this is a better tactic for me to actually finish books that I buy. So I've picked up this, The Decameron by Boccaccio. I haven't started this yet. It might be one that I don't actually start until the new year because I've just got so many other things on my TBR. But I'm looking forward to actually digging into that. And then what else did I pick up? So I also picked up this, Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee by Dee Brown. I'm a bit ashamed to say that I haven't even read this yet. I have started it. However, you know, I'm 32 for God's sake, and I haven't even picked up this hugely influential book. So I'm really excited to finish this. So some other ones that I purchased in terms of actual physical copies. This is fiction. However, it shouldn't surprise you to know that it's historical nonfiction. And I did read this when I was 18, I think. So it's been quite some time. And it's called Eagle in the Snow by Wallace Breen. And essentially it's about the General Maximus, who in the year AD 406 roams on the defensive, and he is urged to proclaim himself emperor. And it just goes through, you know, the final stand. So again, I haven't read this for 14 years, so a lot of my memory of what actually happens is a bit rusty. So I'm quite happy to actually start reading this again, just to regain my knowledge, because I do remember really enjoying it. This is actually my second copy. When I moved from the States, all of my books were left behind, and I figured it was just actually cheaper, because this was only $1.99 here. It was just actually cheaper to buy it again rather than having them shipped over. And who knows, maybe my husband and I might actually want to relocate over there, so my books will be there for me when we do go. But they're currently just sat in my parents' storage. And then finally, I picked up this, The First Crusade by Thomas Asbridge. Quite happy to start reading through this as well. It might be by November by the time I actually start this. So I am a medieval enthusiast, not an expert. If you watch my last video, you'll know that my expertise is paleoanthropology and Neanderthals. So I'm just quite happy to read medieval history as a hobby. So I'm interested to actually start reading this. Those were all my physical copies. I think what I might do is just do a separate video for my Kindle reads. a lot of those actually focus more on the Plantagenets, as I mentioned, and I'm quite excited to just discuss those in a separate video so I can talk about them in a bit more detail. Um, so yeah, those are some of the books that I've purchased recently. It might seem like a very paltry amount compared to some of you out there. I'm just hugely amazed by the libraries that you have. Um, but I just, yeah, I don't have that. If I did show you my collection, you'd probably be like, recoil in I don't know, uh, just embarrassment for me. But yeah, I'm hoping to build my collection again, and I'm just looking forward to reading some more, and hopefully you guys might have enjoyed some of those books that I picked up. So yeah, until next time, see you later.